The St. Louis Blues make multiple moves as Doug Armstrong continues to bolster the depth with making multiple sneaky signings. But not only that, we get a ridiculous report on the St. Louis Blues prospects, and fans are going to be livid over this. We have so much to break down in this episode, and you're not going to want to miss it. Before we get into that, if you're part of the 79.6%, basically 80% watching this, and you haven't hit that sub button yet, make sure to go down and hit it. It's completely free. We're going to keep you up to date on everything with the Blues, with prospects, trades, rumors going into next season. There's no better home, so go down and hit that free subscribe button. It helps so much. But with that, let's just hop straight into this, and we're going to touch on the signings first, where we did see the St. Louis Blues did make a couple depth signings today, bringing in 3 players on 1-year, 2-way contracts. Now we're going to break down these contracts and these guys, and a lot of them are looking a little sneaky. Right now, it's only 2 on the screen, but on Puckpedia, all 3 guys were signed to $775K on 1-year deals. I'm going to throw it straight to you first here. It's Matt Luff seems like the perfect candidate to have a bit of a breakout and maybe jump into the NHL at some point. But what is your initial thoughts on this signing in particular?
This one's the sneaky good signing to me. I like Matt Luff's game and, had the opportunity to watch him in the OHL, and he was roughly a point a game player in the OHL. And whenever you see that, depending what you bring to the table, it can always translate to the NHL. Of course, if that's all you bring to the table, then it's not going to. But he's a big body who likes to get physical as well, and he knows how to use his body. And that's kind of what the St. Louis Blues want, right? And that's kind of the team that they're trying to build, a team that's, has skill and speed, but they're very hard to play against. And ever since he came over to the organization halfway through last season, if you look at his AHL stats, it's almost a point a game player in the AHL. Like, that is nothing to, sneeze at. Like, he is putting in the work, putting up some good numbers, 45 points in 50 games. So, it looks like he kind of got comfortable. And will he play in the NHL this year? Probably not as an everyday NHLer, but if there are some injuries, I could see him getting called up. He put in some really good work last season, and he's still relatively young. Sometimes it takes guys till they're like 26 to figure it out at the NHL level. So I wouldn't count him out, and I think that it's actually a very sneaky good signing, and he's shown out since he's come over to the organization. Now, the other ones, of course, they just drafted a goaltender, Zarenko. He's been with the organization for a while as well. He posted an 897, so not bad considering what the AHL save percentage average is at right now, and even the NHL's. I mean, it's dropped to like 900 or 899 and at points last season. So not bad whatsoever. It's a depth signing. Why not keep them in the organization? You're familiar with these players. Keep them in the organization, right? And then even with Skinner, I think this is an interesting one too. I mean, out of the 3, probably the most, or the least exciting, I should say, out of all 3 of them. Still another guy who's used to the organization. You can keep him around. And obviously, I think that, it's some depth signings. You're going to need guys in the AHL to play in the AHL. And if there is some injuries, I could see some of these guys coming up. But the Blues, one thing that Doug Armstrong has done so well this season for not only himself, but obviously Steen coming in next season, is bolstering up the depth. This team has so much depth, and that's exactly what you need as you go through the playoffs.
And I mean, looking at the guys, like you said, none of these guys are really going to jump out, come into the NHL and score you 40 goals. It would be awesome to see. But the big thing, Matt Luff is the guy where if an injury happens, we don't want anyone on this Blues team to go down. But Matt Luff does seem like a candidate that could jump in. We've already seen him in the NHL. He has had stints throughout the league with the Red Wings, the Predators, the Kings. Yes, it's a lot of teams, but 28 years old, he can still find his groove and be a guy that can be a call-up player to help with his organization, a big body. We've already seen him score goals at both levels, but it is interesting with the goaltender. We know goalies aren't going to hit their prime or really break into the league until they're 25, 26, 27. We know Russia is currently the goalie mill with Shesterkin in the league. All these great goaltenders coming out of the KHL. So it does get very interesting. But Blues fans, what is your thoughts on this? What is your thoughts on how Doug Armstrong has been carrying this offseason with all his moves, re-signings, bringing back players? There's so much he's doing, and he's doing a really damn good job of it, honestly. But this goes straight into the second thing, where we did see a recent prospect pool article dropped on every team. They have the St. Louis Blues ranked at number 15. Now listen, middle of the pack, not terrible. You could be at the very bottom like we do see with the Florida Panthers, just winning 2 Stanley Cups. But the biggest thing is, when reading into this article, it goes into kind of explain why the Blues are at 15. They have Dvorsky, Snuggerud, Carbonneau, Mayu. There's so many names, but before we get into a lot of names that they did forget and why we think they should be higher, Darius, looking at this list, do you think, and listen, it's going to be a little bias coming from us, but should the Blues be a little higher up on this list? Because I do think they should.
Like you said, I'm going to agree with you. Like you said, 15th, that's fantastic. Halfway, through the league there, or I guess a little bit higher at this point because there's 32 teams in the league. But I have a problem with it. I think this is ridiculous. If you look at the list of players that, first of all, there's players left off this list. So we're going to get to that in a second. But if you look at this list, two of the names on this list will be playing in the NHL this year for the St. Louis Blues. So I don't know if you classify that as a prospect still. If you look at Snuggerud, I mean, he's been producing very well at the NHL level. So how are you not ranked higher if you're the St. Louis Blues? Not only that, they were taking a look at Dvorsky, as you can see here, named here, or top 5 skaters at least for the St. Louis Blues. He's a guy that in some organizations, like if he was playing with the Pittsburgh Penguins organization, he would be in the NHL. That just speaks to volumes to the depth that the St. Louis Blues have right now. And they have the opportunity to continue to let these guys develop at the AHL. They have that luxury, right? So for them to be 15th, I think that it's an okay spot, but I actually think it should be higher because some of the prospects that they have up coming up through the system are fantastic. And not only that, they left a player like Steinberg off this list. I mean, he's a first round pick from just 2 years ago. He's progressing very well overseas right now. Or I should say, he was progressing very well overseas and then obviously came over last season, played in the AHL and had really good numbers in the AHL when he did come over. So the fact that he wasn't even listed there and he's not even a top 5 skater, I think that's maybe a little crazy. Probably should have been in the top 5. But again, I'm not sure why you're ranking prospects when some of those guys are going to be in the NHL. I don't know if, personally, I don't know if I would classify them still as prospects if they're actually in the NHL. And then on top of that, to leave a guy like that off the top 5 list, I think is a little crazy because I think that he's going to make an impact at the NHL level very soon.
Because, I mean, even looking at that, you're leaving a forward up, but you're also leaving an Adam Juracek, their best defensive prospect in the system. Mayu is joining, but we know Doug Armstrong has made it clear that Mayu is set to make this team out of camp. We've seen them go out to make moves to accommodate him, but the biggest thing in Dvorsky is very well capable of making this roster. Carbonneau is someone they just drafted, looking like a bull in the china shop. And we've seen quotes coming from Doug Armstrong. He's going to fight for position. And like you said with Snuggerud, we've seen him sign out of the NCAA, making this lineup, and not only making it, but playing in the top 6 with the team in a first round that pushed the President's Trophy winners to Game 7. The fact that they are ranked this low, I think it's a little ridiculous. Yes, there's some great teams above. The San Jose Sharks have a great pool. The Montreal Canadiens seems like they're getting every prospect. But when looking at the teams above, I do think St. Louis should be at least in the top 12. It's not a big margin, but even maybe top 10 with how they're building this. But with the team still being so young, they're in a very good spot. It's very fun to watch this team, and the future is on the way with Stenberg. We see it with Juracek. We've already seen it with names with Blues fans. What is your thoughts on all this? What is your thoughts on the depth signings we've seen this team do? Is there still signings you would like to see? We're going to cover Bo and Byram, a little teaser for tomorrow, as there's a lot of news coming out around that as well. What's your thoughts on the prospect ranking? Where would you put him to? Listen, we're going to be biased, but let's have fun with it because I think 15 is ridiculous. But what's your guys' thoughts on all this? Go down and leave a comment down below. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. I'm going into the blender. Hope you guys enjoyed your 4th of July weekend, but I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care.